Hello and welcome back everyone. In this installment of the Gen AI for DevOps Bootcamp, I am going to build an ECS cluster using Terraform, and we're going to vibe code the whole thing. Now, there's probably going to be a chance that I've got to dive in and poke around a little bit manually, but the goal here is to try to stretch the limits of these LLMs as far as we can without having to do things manually. Now, of course, in the real world, you need to give a lot more supervision and honestly use these LLMs to bootstrap things and then go in and finish the job yourself. There's a lot of use case for that. But in this case, we really want to get used to how LLMs work, how to tune them, and get them to do the things we need them to do as fast as possible without, again, manual intervention. Because as this technology matures, you're going to find that you're going to have less and less of an opportunity to intervene. So getting the prompt right, getting your MCP servers right, getting your context right, all of that is going to be incredibly important as these LLMs become more and more ubiquitous, and especially as agents become more ubiquitous outside of the normal IDE environment. So let's go ahead and take another look at what we're going to deploy. Now, I've already deployed a few of these things. Hopefully you have too, because this isn't going to make a lot of sense without them. But you can do these tasks out of order. It's perfectly fine. If you want to deploy the ECS cluster first and then add the containers, you certainly can. You just will have to go back and forth a little bit. So as you can see here, we've already got our AWS Secrets Manager ready to go. We've got our containers built, but the tasks, of course, do not exist yet. We've got ECR. Yep, we've got ECR ready to roll, so that is good to go. So we have a place from which to pull our containers. Now we just need to get that ECS cluster built. We've got to set up our ALB load balancer. I know that's kind of like ATM machine. I do this all the time. I made that joke already before, but anyway, so we've got to get that load balancer set up. We need to make sure that all of the plumbing is set up for our containers to converse with one another. And we've got to access the secret in that container, the OpenAI API key. We've got to assign a role that can be used by the container to access Secrets Manager. And I think we already knocked that out, actually. So anyway, if you take a look at the tasks over here, a little more succinct than I am right now, you'll see I have built this for EKS or ECS. Both will pass these tests. And I did that. ECS is going to be the easier option, obviously, but EKS is probably the cooler option. I just really don't have the hours needed to record. I think my camera battery would die by then. So that being said, we're going to stick with ECS. So we want to deploy an ECS cluster using Terraform. We want to deploy a load balancer. We do not need URSA IAM roles for service accounts. We're actually just going to have a role that applies right to the task. The backend service obviously needs to be deployed. That's the API that's going to communicate with OpenAI and allow us to generate, better pick a bad one. There we go. Generate our remediation scripts. Now, if you don't want to do this part, you really don't have to. It's just something that's pretty cool. I would encourage you, though, to find some sort of secret to use or something just to get the feel for it and understand how to secure these types of apps. But that's what we're going to do. And then the front end service, of course, is just this here, which, as I've mentioned before, this app is yours to do with whatever you want. I don't even think I put a license on it. I would love to hear from you if you do something cool with it, especially if you make a lot of money. You know, I mean, we could all use a little bit of help. But if you want to fill this out for some resources, remediation, do whatever you want with it. It's a really cool starter kit. So anyway, all of that being said, I'm just going to mark that complete and let's get building. So here I am right here. I've actually got the compliance front end is run with Docker Compose right now. I built that on the side just to show that off. It is not in ECS yet, but here we are. I've got a lot of tabs open from my previous endeavors here. So let's take a look. I'm currently using the O3 LLM here, or the O3 version of ChatGPT right here. And that's, once again, a really solid option in Windsurf. They're only charging you 1 times credit, which is really solid. I don't know what it's doing in Cursor. If you are in Claude Code or something else, honestly, Claude Sonnet 4 is still going to be the winner here. It's overall a better option, and there's a good chance I'm going to just change to it and get this done. I haven't decided yet. This is, once again, pretty free flowing, and I have not practiced this. So we might just see how O3 goes, but if it starts acting up in the planning phase, if it gets a lot of things wrong, we might just switch over to Sonnet 4 and get this done right the first time. So let's go ahead and do that. The first thing I want to do is start analyzing my infrastructure here. Now, luckily, this is not a very large app. As far as tokens go, I think in a previous, previous video, it's several hundred lines, maybe tops. That's nothing when it comes to tokens. It's a few thousand tokens. This is going to fit into pretty much any LLM. If you have a much larger code base, then I strongly suggest, while scaffolding, you break out your Gemini 2.5 Pro, at least now. That's got, once again, like a million token context window. GPT 4.1 also has a million context window. In previous videos, even though I do love this price right here, 2.25x credits, it did not do well. I gave it very specific instructions on where to look. It did not use the tools properly. It ended up going out to the internet, finding a completely different resource. And although it looks like it hallucinated, it did not technically hallucinate. It just didn't listen. O3 solved that pretty well. We had a really good time with that. So overall, O3 is a really good model to use, especially for like infrastructure and stuff like that. I found that front-end code and things, O3 starts to stumble a little bit. There's nothing going to beat Claude Sonnet on front end right now. I have not used Grok 4 yet. I've heard that its tool use is a little off, but I could be wrong. But anyway, let's go ahead and start planning things out. So what I'm going to do, and although we kind of know what all of this looks like, let's do a little recon of all of this. I'm just going to close all of these here. Close all. And let's go ahead and see if we can make a plan. All right, so we're going to say new file, ecs.md, just like that. No sense in wasting a tool call just so we can create a file. And what I'm going to do is just say we have a full stack application. It's kind of full stack. There's no database, but whatever. With front end container and back end container, but no database. Much of it has already. Wait, let's go back here. We have scaffolded. I don't want to say that either. Okay. We need to deploy those to AWS using Terraform. There we go. That's a little better. So we want to deploy those to AWS using Terraform. We've already started much of the scaffolding in, and I'm just going to use my little @ sign here and in Terraform-infra, just like that. So now it's going to enter that entire directory into its context right there. So Terraform infra is where we have started most of the scaffolding. And, you know, I'm starting to think if I want O3 or Gemini here. Gemini is really good with documentation. I'm just blown away by Gemini. Let's use Gemini. I don't think we've done a whole lot with Gemini. Let's go ahead and use that. There we go. So we're going to use Gemini. All right. So we've already started much of the scaffolding in Terraform Infra. I'm explaining that right there. And I'm just going to say analyze that directory and make a plan to get the containers to ECS along with all dependencies already deployed. Does that sound good? I think that sounds good. That sounds pretty good. And I'm just going to say, don't code yet, just create a plan of the resources we need in ECS.md. There we go. All right, so we have a full stack application, and we've already started most of the scaffolding. Analyze that directory, make a plan to get the containers in ECS along with all dependencies already deployed. Okay, don't code yet. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, you know, let me just do this. Use the resources already created and create an ECS cluster to finish deploying the containers. Add your plan, no code, just plan to ECS.md. There we go. Okay. Still not super thrilled, but hey, let's see what it does. I found it's pretty good at navigating language. It's kind of its deal. So let's go ahead and I will say Gemini is pretty chatty. If it does get things wrong, it's also fairly emotional, I guess you could say. It gets really, really apologetic if you tell it did something wrong. So keep in mind, sometimes it's a little sad, to be honest. All right, cool. Thank you. I see the contents of that directory. Now I'll examine the key Terraform files. Awesome. Okay, it's doing exactly what we need to do. I've reviewed main.tf to clear. Okay, we've got ECR, Docker image pushes, secrets management using modules. Next logical step is to analyze variables, understand the inputs. Okay, cool. All right, it sees locals. All right, it's seeing the stuff there. All right, now it's going into the modules. Ooh, I'm not reading all of that. So I'm just going to keep scrolling. There's a lot of thinking, but it is interesting to see. All right, ECS deployment. Whoa, there we go. Cool. All right, so let's go ahead, and it looks like it's doing a lot of what I was going to look for anyway. It's kind of explaining over here, but what we need to do is make sure it's got really the important stuff. Obviously, ECR repositories. All right, so it's giving us documentation for the whole thing. So that's actually great. Typically, I would recommend this have been done anyway, but of course, we're just vibing. So I didn't bother with that yet. This is actually really useful here. All right, so it found the secrets. That's good. So let's see what it needs to add. It needs to add VPC. That makes sense. Subnets, internet gateway. Awesome. NAT gateway. Okay. Let's see here. Trying to decide if we're going to deal with a NAT gateway. I think we are. I'm trying to remember if Fargate kind of includes that already, because I might want to just specify Fargate and simplify this. Let's see. We'll see if it deploys any EC2 instances. All right. Configure route tables to manage traffic flow. Yeah, no, that's cool. Creates an ECS cluster. Yes, of course. Load balancer, ALB, target group, good. Listener. Didn't tell us what those were going to be. That's a little annoying. Wish it would mention, it would confirm the ports, but it's okay. Define the container for backend service references, ECR image, specify CPU memory resources. Okay, cool, whatever. That's fine. Front-end task definition, ECS services, back-end. Okay. Create an ECS service to run and maintain the desired number of back-end tasks. Configure it to run in the private subnets. Cool. No public load balancer needed. Yep. Cool. All right. Create an ECS service for the front end tasks. Got it. Yep. That all makes sense. IAM roles. Here's what I needed to know. ECS task execution role. I couldn't remember if we already had one of those though. But may not have. It may have just created policies. We'll see. All right. Create a new Terraform module. Networking. Cool. I like that. Modules ECS. Like that. Update the main TF to include the new networking ECS modules. Networking. Okay, cool. All right, so this actually looks pretty good. I'm cautiously optimistic that it's going to do a pretty good job. I might not even switch models. Sometimes I find that Gemini is better at analysis, but not as great at code. I think when it gets that big context window, it sometimes just gets a little confused as it just fills it up too far. I've never actually run metrics on that, but that's kind of what it's seeming like. So let's take a look. Let me see if I can find that role, because I believe it created a role for us. Let me see here. Okay, yep, nope. Let's see. ECR Docker images. It might not have actually. I could have sworn it did, but yeah, okay, hang on. Secrets module creates secrets manager secrets and versions using write-only values plus an IAM policy. Okay. So it did create the policy, but did not create the role. Awesome. So that is all we need there. All right, good. So I'm going to accept these changes. Just that green is just very harsh. All right, so let me take a look. Implementation, Terraform module, new Terraform module. Yep. All of that looks good. I'm not going to read everything. Okay, cool. Create an IAM role that allows ECS tasks to pull ECR write logs to CloudWatch. Okay. Let me confirm it knows that there is already a policy in place. Can you confirm that you saw the policy already built that should be added to the execution role? It's in the secrets module. Oop, might as well just reference it. Let me spell right. Okay. Nope. It's in, you know what? I'm just going to say in the secrets module. It's actually good enough to go ahead and find that without referencing the directory itself. Okay. There you go. You've made a great point. I should have checked the outputs. Okay, let's see what it says. You're right to have me double check. Well, thanks, pal. I'm glad. Let's see. See the contents of the outputs. So here it is. This is what I have seen Gemini do. Poor thing. Just gets so excited. So yeah. Gemini does act up occasionally. That might just be like a Windsurf thing or just kind of a problem with managing the tools. But do keep that in mind. If you see this, sometimes you're just going to have to stop it. Remember, it is outputting tokens there. All right, cool. But anyway, I am still absolutely right. Cool. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, again, it's just a little sycophantic. Let's see. Okay, create a specific IAM role for the backend test. This role will be assigned pre-existing IAM policy from the secrets module. Cool. All right, so now it knows that. Pass the repository URLs from... Okay, yep, nope, that looks good. Okay, so this is feeling pretty good. And although it just did that funky little thing, I'm going to give it a pass. Gemini did all this work for us. Let's give it a pass and let's see how it does. And what I'm going to do is just remind it and remember to use the Terraform. How do I reference that? Do I have to do this? No, actually, I think I can just say Terraform MCP server. I better make sure that's running, actually, now that I think about it. I think, let's see. Docker PS. Hardcore Swanson. Awesome. You Parks and Rec fans might be kind of excited about that. So let me get rid of that. All right, and remember to use the Terraform MCP server whenever possible. Always use the latest Terraform syntax and prefer for each over count. All right, I think that's most everything we need to know. So let's go ahead and just see how good Gemini does. I'm a little bit excited to see if it pulls this off and how many times it's going to take. But let's see. All right, my rules should be in place. It should not be running a Terraform apply. If it does, we can yell at it and we know that it didn't listen to the rules. So let's see what happens. Actually, before I do this, yeah, I am going to go ahead and commit this. Gem ECS. We'll just say, what was the last thing I did? Secrets. That should be good. Hopefully I haven't done anything crazy. I thought I already committed that, but you know, we'll see what happens. All right, cool. All right, and remember to use Terraform MCP server, blah, 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 blah. Go ahead and perform the actions in the plan. Let me go back and look. Yeah, not many steps. I'm not going to go step by step today. I think it's going to do fairly well. We're going to find out. So let's go ahead and kick this thing off. All right, cue the Jeopardy music and we'll see how this goes. All right, looks like it is using the MCP server like we said. Cool. Module ID, yes, neat. Let's see here if there's anything interesting. Published 6/20/2025. Terraform AWS modules, 6.0.1. Yep, it is using the latest for sure, which is great. Hey, it's looking at some Cloud Posse modules. Those guys are actually pretty cool. If you do a lot of Terraform, Cloud Posse is actually a good set of pretty great guys. And let's see here, some modules I have not heard of. That's interesting. So yeah, it's combing through a lot of the modules to see what types of patterns it can use. Hopefully, it doesn't import any of them because we do need this to be custom. So let's see. Is the most popular. Oh, here it goes. It is custom using modules. I can't decide if I want to let it do that or not. You know what? Let's let it do it. And for funsies, we might just decouple that after it's done. Most of them do not opt to use entire modules like that, but apparently this one wants to. So let's give it a shot. All right, so in networking, let's go here. Yep, Terraform AWS modules, VPC, AWS. And don't get me wrong, modules off the shelf are wonderful. They are great for velocity. They do really simplify the whole process, but in a lot of environments, you know, VPC is fine. But, you know, once you start getting some of these EKS modules, they come with a lot of batteries included that you may not need. And anything in there that you can configure that you don't need is, as far as I'm concerned, it's attack surface. I don't like it. So I prefer things like EKS a lot of times to build it from scratch, or at least take pieces from that module and strip out anything you don't need. It just feels better to me. But again, I've been doing Terraform a very long time, so that's the way I like to work. But I know a lot of people prefer the velocity with off-the-shelf modules, and it's going to work so many times out of 10. However, in more complicated environments, it can definitely become somewhat of a burden to try to keep up with and manage. All right, let's see here. It's done a lot of stuff here. I've completed the implementation phase. Have you now? Ooh, let's see. Did it not listen to me? It started knitting. That's okay. Terraform and knit, I think I told it it can do that, but you're not allowed to apply or plan. So let's see what happens here. All right, Terraform and knit, it has done it. Great, was successful. However, okay, the OpenAI API key is not set. This key is required. Okay. All right. One sec. I'm pretty sure that was already set. Oh, no, I've actually restarted this since then. I remember I had a cool little command. Let me look in my past conversations. There it is. All right, cool. Yeah, I think this one right here does it. So I'm going to grab this and run this again. I need to make sure. Yeah, no, I need to be in backend. That's where that M file is, I believe. Okay, cool. And 1 second, and I'm going to make sure. Let's see here. Ah, yeah, this should be fine. Let me see. Yeah, 1 second. I'm going to pause this so you don't see it. All right, so it is set now. I actually used this second command here. And if you didn't watch the previous video, basically all I did was ask O3 or something, I can't remember, to write a script that grabs the environment variables out of my M file, lowercases them, prepends them with tfvar, and sets them in my environment. So that way Terraform will pick those up. So we are good to go there. I have verified that it is in place. So now I'm going to go back to where we were. Awesome. Here we are. You may not have all of these features, so don't try to keep up if you're not using Windsurf or Cursor or something like that. All right, cool. So the Terraform and knit says it was successful. Let's go ahead and verify that. I don't trust you, even though I can see it right here. So Terraform and knit, I'm just going to run it myself anyway. Yep, all good to go. Now let's run a Terraform validate so we don't have to wait for a full plan. Hey, cool. Valid, that's surprising. So let's run a Terraform plan and see what happens. And just so you know, I am not skipping straight to apply until I at least look over a few of these things. So let's see here. Wow. Okay. I'm going to be honest, even though I don't know that it did everything right, I'm still incredibly impressed that we got a solid plan on first shot without giving it the ability to plan. So I'm pretty impressed. Let's see here. All right. It did not listen to me on the whole count thing and what it did. And that's because it used a module. That module does use count to say whether it's going to deploy something or not, which is annoying to me. I prefer for each. I do not like count. So it did overrule that idea, that rule, just to use the module instead. But I'm going to forgive it for now. So we've got our AWS subnet public, subnet private. Cool. Associations, of course, all of this boilerplate fun, systems admin, certification type stuff. So route table, internet gateway. Oh, NAT gateway. Yeah. So remember, folks, if you are budget conscious, this NAT gateway gets very expensive and they are very annoying because of that. So do keep that in mind. The NAT gateways can get expensive. All right. And hang on a second. Module networking, module.vpc.aws NAT gate. Oh, it's a route. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, NAT gateway's here. This is the route. My eyes are going bad. Forgive me. Okay, cool. We got internet gateway. Yeah. EIP. All right, cool. Yeah, this is looking pretty good. Let's get to the ECS part. Okay, ECS tasks. Let's see what it's doing here. That's a security group. That's fine. Oh, this is a lot of resources here. Okay, listener rule. Anything I need to know here? Okay. Yeah, that should be okay right there. Oh, go away, stupid thing. There we go. Interesting. Okay. All right, front end. So it did not use count here, rather. It used for each properly. That's good. All right, that's the listener rule once again, and then bam, look at all that funky stuff. Port 80, yep, HTTP, good. Again, for a bonus, if you want to get that to HTTPS, that's great. I'm not going to bother setting up certificates and everything right now. That's definitely something I would recommend, though, and something you can do to really push the boundaries here. All right, there's the load balancer. Great. All right, this is, yeah, I don't want to bore you too much here. Okay, complies dash ECS task execution role. I do remember that. Sweet. Okay. I'm feeling pretty decent about what it's done here. I'm still mad it used the modules like that, but honestly, I'm feeling pretty good about it. We probably could have ticked Fargate. Let me see. Yeah, I don't think. Oh, wait. Yep. Launch type is Fargate. Yeah. Fargate serverless is what I was thinking of, I think. So this is just Fargate. Fargate serverless would have a lot less of this. All right. This is what I wanted to see. Container port for the backend's 4,000. Yep. Smart, smart, smart. Okay, cool. Awesome. I'm also going to do this real quick. Grab 3,000. Let's see if it. Yep. Awesome. Got the container port for 3,000 as well. All right. Whew. Yeah, sorry. No, nobody loves someone just diving through a plan like that. I might shorten it a little bit. So if you hear me talking now, just know you might have just saved 5 minutes if I decide to. We'll see. So overall, I'm feeling good about it. I don't think it's going to do anything with that OpenAI key. We can also verify to make sure that it's not doing anything, but I didn't see it setting anything silly. It's got the execution task. It's got all of that. The code itself should be able to access that. If it doesn't, we'll dive in and we will get that fixed as well. So let's go ahead and I'm going to accept all the changes. I know typically you don't necessarily want to, but in this case I am, because it, as far as I can tell, it didn't modify anything that I've already done. We've only got, as you see by the green here, we've only got green for ECS and networking. And we've got some locals and main, which makes sense. Let's go ahead and take a look at the locals, see what's been added. ECS services, sweet, 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 sweet. Cool, 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 cool. Back end, front end, 4,000. Yep, awesome. And main, I'll roll down here to the bottom. Load balancer URL for an output. Repository URLs, cool. Y'all, this looks pretty good. All right, we're gonna do it. We're gonna try it. Terraform apply, and I'm just going to auto approve this puppy. There we go. And I will see y'all on the flip side. We were so close here. All right, so create service, blah, 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 blah. Target group ARN and load balancer name cannot both be blank. That's fun. So again, in the spirit of vibe coding, since we're not in production, I'm just going to toss this right back in and let's see if it can fix it itself. So fingers crossed that I don't have to actually do any work. That's the hope anyway. But if I got to go in there anyway, I will. I don't want to waste all of your time today. So if this thing does not figure it out, then we'll see what we can do. All right. You've encountered a common issue. No, you've encountered a common issue, Gemini, not me. I didn't do it. So let's see what happens here. It looks like it's coming up with a pretty good idea. It occurs because load balancer block is included for the backend service, even though it's not public and doesn't have a load balancer. Oh, nice. Okay. So this is a problem I see a lot with LLMs. Remember the LLM is just trying to keep up with a continuous stream of tokens. And depending on what order that stream comes in, it can very well get confused, especially depending on how far back in its context window it can look. So what it probably did was it was streaming through these tokens and it saw, an opportunity to specify a load balancer block. And it remembered that it had already done that for the front end potentially and said, oh, well, we need to do this for the back end also. It didn't it didn't use any actual thought process here because that's not what it does. It didn't say, oh, this is a back end service, so I need to do this. I need to do this. I didn't prompt it that hard. It had no reason to really understand what's going on because it doesn't understand what's going on. It's only looking at patterns. It's just pattern matching. So keep that in mind. Again, this is going to be an endless battle as you learn to do this more efficiently, where it just does the stupidest things in the world that you can't believe while still solving very complex problems. So knowing when to do things yourself, when to use an LLM, and how to balance that can be a very useful skill. All right, so now it says it has corrected it. Let's go and take a look in here, see what it did. So, yep, this is AWS service this, ECS service this, cool, for each var.services. All right, so how did you do this? So each value is public, cool. So dynamic load balancer, yeah, cool. All right, it's using a dynamic block there, which is great. For each is public, cool. Yeah, so what happened was it just said, hey, if it is public, do a thing. If it's not, whatever. Yeah, pass in null. Sorry, I can't see that. Let me see if I move this. Hey, cool. Nice, that's good. Yeah, so basically it was saying null. So what's happening is load balancer is still there. It's just specified as null. Null doesn't make it go away though. It's still there, still specified, and it can't do that. This dynamic block here is basically saying use this load balancer block or don't use this load balancer block. Not going to pass in null either way. And here is one way it could have used count and it didn't, which is great. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. Let's see what happens and apply this one. Bam. All right. Hopefully this goes pretty quickly here. Hey, there it goes. All right. Okay, so the moment of truth, of course, it might take a little time to come up. I'm not sure. Let's go ahead and click on that and open it and see what happens. Service temporary unavailable. Going to give that a little bit of time, but not a lot. I'm not going to sit here forever. All right, let me go ahead and sign into AWS and we'll see what is going on. All right, so load balancer 503 means either load balancer's not done, target group's bad, something like that. Let me see. Can I get target groups from here? Yeah. Okay, let's see here. What is that? Okay. This is some old stuff here. Yeah, clearly. Kubernetes, that's from a different deployment. Okay, so I got the target group here, 0 healthy, 0 unhealthy, port 3000. Okay, so clearly something is wrong here. Let's go and see if I can get straight to the listeners. I don't think you can. Kind of. Let's just get a load balancer. Load balancers, there we go. All right, active, listeners and rules. Let's see what we got here. 2 rules. Are you assigned anything? All right. For target group there. Yep, 100%. That makes sense. All right, cool. So we were just at that target group, but nothing is there. Let me see your register targets. Does that? No, I can't do that. Nope. All right, let's go back and take a look at ECS and see if those little guys are up. There we go. Let me just go back here and make sure. Yep. Aha. Okay, so we got one pending. So could just be that the task is busted. It could be a container problem. Yep. Okay. Provisioning. Stopped. Cannot pull container error. Container image manifest has been retried. Okay. All right. So let's go and take a look at ECR. So backend, got this here, 2295. All right. You know, I wonder if this is a problem with the tag. Let's go take a look at the tag, backend. Let's go see what tags are here. Image, size, push tag. Image tag is 1. We don't have a latest tag. I think that's the problem there. So let's go ahead and go indicate that. I do prefer to have a latest tag, so I think I might specify that. Okay, so container is unable to pull. The only tag available is a numbered tag. So let me see here. Can we adjust the container push to also include a latest tag? Is that what I feel like doing, or do I just want to switch it to 1 and see if it works? No, let's do it right. Let's see how fast it can do it. Okay, the only tag available is a numbered tag. Can we adjust the container push as it call it container module? What was it? ECR container, something like that. ECR Docker images. Yeah. All right, yeah, to include the versioned tag as well as a latest tag for the newest version. There we go. Probably didn't need to have a question mark there. I'm pretty confident this is what we need to do, but let's go ahead and see if Gemini can handle this. Okay, with both version and latest is a great idea. Oh, thank you, Gemini. You are the best. God, I did not know you liked me so much and thought I was so smart. Okay, cool. So here's a plan. I'm going to inspect it. Yep, cool. All right, found the files, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. I have correctly identified that the current setup only pushes a single versioned tag. To add a latest tag, we'll need to adjust it. Yep, obviously. Let's go ahead and view this. Did it just open? I don't know what just happened. It's in here. Okay. Push versioned. Okay. I don't know why you need to do that, but all right. Yep. Okay. This is, I believe, what I need. I'm pretty sure I remember that being the solution there. I'm still not sure why it's changing that. I don't really care, but it's still a little bit annoying. Okay. All right. Oh, look at this. Absolutely not listening to me. Completely ignored my rules and went ahead and pushed. All right. But luckily, enter a value. So it did not auto approve it. But I'm going to halt right here. I'm going to Control C in there. This is a Windsurf feature. I can actually relocate this out here, which is pretty cool. Remember your rules. You cannot Terraform apply. There we go. But I'm going to go ahead and run the Terraform plan. While we're doing this. Oh, right. Different. There we go. Since that's an environment variable, it's not carrying over into different terminals. So I'm going to go ahead and run a Terraform plan back up here. Okay, so it's still missing stuff. All right. Okay, cool. So let me go ahead and let it know that it's missing the name in. Oh, 29, line 29, right here, probably. Let me see here. Where are you? Docker images. Yeah. main.tf. This is main.tf. Yep. Line 29. Okay. So Docker image this for each build. Yeah. All right. So there's no name. Yeah. I'm just going to tell it. Once again, I'm not going to go and do it. I'm just going to tell it that. We'll see how well it works. Still doing its thinking. Awesome. All right. You've hit another Terraform error. All right, cool. So that looks good. Looks like that is what we needed. Now it's confirming it. I've corrected it. Cool. All right. See, it doesn't think I have an OpenAI key set in the environment because it doesn't have access to the environment. In Windsurf, only these Cascade terminals are able to be accessed by this here. So that's kind of cool. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to accept that. That does look right to me. Let's go ahead and run that Terraform plan. All right, 6 to add. We've got the images here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Good. Is there show me a tag here? Yeah, backend 1, front end 1, front end latest, back end latest. Awesome. That's what we want. Terraform, apply, auto approve. And then we will go and see if it automatically resets and pulls it. I don't remember if it has a limit for number of times or if that was set, but we'll go and check. If it's dead, we'll just restart the process. Awesome. All right. Come on, module, let's go. All right. Still creating. All right, guys, I will see y'all on the flip side right after this is done. Be right back. All right, creation is complete. So I'm going to go ahead. It's already open. I'm going to go ahead and open it. I know it's definitely not ready yet. It's still got to probably error out, drain, stop, do provision, whatever it needs to do. Let me just refresh this and head back to the tasks. Okay, let's take a look and see what happens here. It might have hit its limit. Wait. Nope. Okay. Last deployment in progress. Cool. That's what we want. So let's go ahead and take a look here. It is pending. Okay, come on. Let's go. Let's see some green here. All right, the task is running now. That's looking good. Let's refresh this and still nothing. Okay, let's see here. Come on. All right, so we got that task running. That's good. Let's go and check. I don't remember. Is that back end or front end? Okay. Front end is still in progress. So pending is good. All right, so we'll give that a little more time to see what happens. Okay, and the problems continue. So I'm just going to grab this, copy and paste it in and let this thing get after it. I am not spending all day on this one, that's for sure. It's basically a connection error, cannot pull secrets or registry off, which I'm not sure. You know what? I bet it didn't apply the execution rule because it doesn't need the secret is probably the problem. I bet that's it. So there probably needs to be another execution rule without secrets access. So let's see how that works. That's my theory anyway. So let's see how it goes. All right, generating, seems restart, blah, blah. Okay, 40, yep. Wait, what? S3 gateway endpoint. What are you talking about? I don't need that. All right. Error message strongly points to a network. It's not networking though. Wait. I wonder if it put the load balancer in the Yeah, I bet I put the load balancer in the public and the task in the private. So let's see here. See the current configuration. It's very basic. To resolve this, create a security group. Man, so it's going with create VPC endpoints. Let's see if it plays nice with the endpoints. I mean, I would love to see that, but let's see here. Let's run a Terraform plan and see what happens. Still think we're starting to get a little more in depth than these LLMs can do by themselves, but let's take a look. All right, so endpoint S3 gateway. I didn't even know we needed an S3 gateway for that, but if this works, we're actually going to be doing really well. Okay, endpoint interface, ECR, DKR, yes, cool. ECR API, wow, okay. All right, it's getting a little spicy. Let's see if it works. I'm going to apply that. And then I'm going to pause again and see you on the flip side because this might take a little bit. All right, everything is added, but we are starting to push the complexity lines as far as I'm concerned, at least without more planning. If we had a lot more planning here and really map this out, I'd feel more comfortable with it, but let's see. Honestly, I think if this doesn't work, we're probably going to pull out the big guns here and just move to another model and see how well it does. All right, let's go ahead and compliance dash front end. Let's refresh. Ah, there it is. Yep, nothing. All right, so since we're running up on an hour here, this is getting a little old, I'm sure, watching me troubleshoot. I'm going to try to clean this up a little bit, but what I've done so far is we've got networking working. So I noticed that it was a networking issue, went into the subnet and found that it was not assigning public IPs. So, I need to refresh this. So, got that fixed. Got the assigned public IPv4 addresses fixed. Got all of that going. The task is now running, but then failing. That is the wrong one. But then failing with just an error exit code 1. So I'm going to troubleshoot that a little bit. Right now, what I'm thinking is the front end can't access the back end, which is causing it to fail. It does need to access the back end. I very explicitly told it when I created this container not to just fake it. If it can't get to the back end, it needs to fail out. So that's what I've done. And what I'm doing now, you can kind of see my chain of thought here. I'll back up a little bit. We've got several things going on, but this is where I found that the auto assign public IP is not enabled. It knocked that out. It tried several more things, which got kind of annoying. So I knocked that out. All right, so I finally did it. I'm not proud of how long it took, to be perfectly honest. It definitely took a little while, and a lot of the reason was the LLM, again, having not a true understanding of the app, but only pattern matching, ended up undoing things when it shouldn't have. Whenever we tried to migrate to other things, then it forgot that the front end needs access. Well, I guess what I'm saying is the browser needs access to the back end. This is not a server-side rendered app. So it removed all the load balancer configuration for the back end. It took a while, but you know what? Finally got it. Finally got everything right. What we did was I did a lot of troubleshooting with networking and things like that to trace everything. One of the most useful items that I used. Let me find it. This is actually a relatively new feature too. Oh, where did you go? 1 second. I assure you, I know what I'm doing. It's around here somewhere. All right, let's take a look here and resource map. This, 1 second. There we go. And resource map. This is one of the most useful things you can use throughout this deployment. Make sure that everything is going where it needs to go. Since this is a simple React app, you do need access to the back end and front end. So what's happening, you've got HTTP 80 right here, and we are forwarding all of the requests, at least, everything except for the API, over to our front end. And if it's the API, it's getting forwarded over to the back end just like it needs to. And also, I was able to dive a little bit more into the networking issues, what I originally attributed to a problem with having no public IP address. Actually turned out that the problem was the container was in the wrong subnet. So went back and found that. So you can see here that the front end container is now in the proper private subnet. So now the container itself is private, but what it's doing, so it doesn't have a public IP address anymore. What happened was the public didn't automatically assign one, so blah, 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 blah. Anyway, basically what happened was this needed a public IP whenever it was in the public subnet, but now that it's in the private one where it belongs, we've got our NAT gateway and VPC endpoint right here that we need to make sure that it can pull the proper container. So now everything deploys perfectly on the first try, and we've got our audit command here, which does work. And of course, if you have not had a chance yet to deploy the AWS config, you'll need to do that. There it goes. It was getting a little slow there, trying to push my buttons there. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed that troubleshooting session. I know it was a lot, probably a little more than you expected. You thought you were here to learn about Gen AI, and we ended up doing a full AWS networking deep dive. But that's what happens. Again, Gen AI is not perfect. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope to see y'all on the next one.